All right, guys, Patrick from Art Storefronts live with you today, and I'm fired up for this interview. I've already told Brien I was fired up for this interview. He doesn't really know why I'm fired up for this interview, but I can't wait to tell you why I'm fired up for this interview. So we're here today with artist Brien Cole. What would you describe your niche, by the way? I mean, your byline says wine and bourbon art. Is that like the most up-to-date explanation?
Exactly. Yeah, so I would describe it as wine art, bourbon art, some people would say probably alcohol, and more also just kind of related to just more like art that relates to the centers around wine, but also about family, friends, getting together, just kind of good times.
Yeah, just good times. The reason I'm so fired up for this interview, because I've loved your art for a long time. One, you are crazy talented in the sense that like you're one of those guys that if you look too closely, you won't even know if the difference is it a painting or is it a photograph, because it's so hard to tell sometimes. I mean, the fact you have that definition with your brush strokes is insane. But ultimately, why I'm fired up for this interview, because I feel like you have a tightly defined niche, and you're also like custom designed for certain areas of wall space most other people can't get into. Right? Correct. This is absolutely all day man cave vibes, right? This is all day wine bar vibes. This is all day, like, kitchen area vibes. And, I love starting with the end and working backwards. And you have like these defined wall spaces you can be. So I'm excited to get into that today and to sort of tease things out. For those that are watching on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, X, and LinkedIn, if you have questions, you can go ahead and leave comments. We'll respond to them as we can. But what I would love to hear, Brien, is how long you've been an artist, and then how many years have you been with us at Art Storefronts?
Sure. So actually, I've been an artist for probably, I started drawing at about age 6. Pretty much kind of drew all the way up through high school. I'll try to give a brief synopsis of it. Got out of high school, and kind of at that point I was like, hey, I need to eat, right? So kind of at that point, went in the military, college, eventually got married. And during that whole period, I was just basically kind of doodling, but I wasn't really kind of drawing. And then it wasn't until I got married, my wife knew that I drew, that I painted, but she was, she wanted me to do something for her house because we had just bought a home. And I was like, no. It's been so many years, I don't have it anymore, blah, blah, blah. So that went on for probably about a year, me making excuses. And so for Christmas, was one Christmas, for my birthday, she bought me some really nice, expensive paint brushes, easel, and said, well, here you go. And I never even touched it for about a year, just let it sit. And she kept bothering me about it. So finally I decided, you know what? Just to get you to leave me alone, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw something. So I picked up this huge, humongous canvas, decided I would find the hardest thing that I could paint. I decided I would pick the Biltmore Estate, said, you know what? I'll do that. It'll flop. And then she'll see that I can't do it and she'll leave me alone. And the reverse just happened. I just fell in love with it. And at that point, she looked at it. She's like, oh, you're pretty good. We could do something off of this. And it just kind of exploded from there. So that was probably in about 2010. Yeah, about 2010. Started with you guys actually in about 2015, I think, when you guys were kind of starting up, 2015, 2016. I had reached out to you guys, but then I could shoot myself in the foot. But I elected not to sign on. It just kind of sat there. I was like, nah, and it wasn't until I think probably about 2021, 22 is when I actually decided, you know what, I can't wait any longer. I need to jump on board.
Oh, that's awesome. I love hearing that. And do you remember how you found us all that time ago? I always wonder because I'm a marketer.
Yeah, it was through a advertisement. It was through an advertisement that you guys were running. And I remember I actually ended up doing a phone call with somebody. I don't remember who. Could have been you, could have been Nick. Yeah. Because you guys were really small at that time. And so I remember I was talking with you guys and, hey, we'd love to have you come on board, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't.
Yeah. So. But then we eventually got him. We eventually got his attention. I want to show off just briefly some of your work that I can do via Instagram. And if you guys haven't followed him, you gotta give Brien a follow. This that the detail that he gets on this work is just insane. And for anyone that loves wine, he doesn't exactly pick 2 buck chuck to paint. You'll notice. I mean, these bottles are unbelievable that are on here, and there's just something emotional that maybe hits alcoholics like me, or just people that enjoy wine in general. But it's so powerful. And I see, yeah, you're adding in the bourbon now. But I just love this niche. I feel like, for the people that loves it. Let me put it to you this way: like, how many different travel artists are there out there, right? And what's the premise of the travel artist? Someone's had this vacation to this place. It's made this emotional connection and they want to remember it forever. Well, you spend the kind of money that you're going to spend on these bottles of wine, the Silver Oak or any of the rest of them that are in here. That's an emotional experience too, right? And so that now that they have the ability to like memorialize it and always think about it and take them back to that place, it's just like you've got so many powerful emotional triggers built in that it's sort of crazy. But I would love to hear the evolution of since you started, since you came on board, where have you picked up steam? Where did you struggle early on? What do you feel like you're doing a much better job of now?
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, and this is where I think like the marketing stuff that you guys do has really, really helped me. And my wife also, she's a business owner, so she's an attorney. So I had the privilege of watching her leave her firm and then grow her business from the ground up, from a file cabinet that she had to the point where she had employees and other attorneys working for her. So I saw the marketing piece and the struggling that she did trying to find somebody, to actually do some good marketing, and the work and the hustle that it took her to get it to that point. Yeah. And so I would share stuff with her about what you guys were doing. And she's like, Brien, that's great, because it's like a lot of the stuff translates over. She's it's almost identical. You really have to go through the same process. So the marketing piece was definitely huge, because honestly, even though I had her as kind of a template, there was still stuff that I was missing. And I was in galleries, still am, but they weren't moving, my pieces. I would, sell some, but it wasn't, it wasn't a lot. So I was definitely classic. Well, the classic case where I guess Nick would say sometimes the best artist doesn't always sell the work. With art. Yeah, I mean I was classic at that. I was a poster child for that. So trying to get that, which I still got a lot of work to do, but trying to get that piece down and better understanding about marketing and what I needed to do and the niche piece really, really helped, because like you guys were kind of saying, like you can find, I took the niche course. So then I realized through that I have niches within the niche. For example, like I have people who, they love wine, but they may not like any of the Bordeaux wine.
Yeah.
But they love the California stuff. So for them, and I've had people tell me this, it's like, yeah, well, I love it, but do you do any Napa Valley stuff or this specific California wine? And I was like, oh, okay. So that's when I learned. It's like, okay, well, I need to kind of break that up a little bit, because my customers are telling me, it's certain stuff that they like, that they don't like. Some of them like white, but they don't like red, or vice versa. So just trying to navigate that piece, that was struggle, something that I had to work through. And actually just coming across wine, period. Because at first when I started, I wasn't doing this. I was doing like, music pieces, because I also love music and play music. So I was doing like these abstract pieces, but it wasn't challenging for me. And it just wasn't, I mean, they were, people bought them, but it just wasn't, it just kind of wasn't like what I was kind of, as an artist, really challenged me. And it was going through a magazine that I actually found, discovered that. And I was like, oh man, I really love all the different elements that it is. But, trying to, from the very beginning stages, trying to find out, like shooting in the dark, really, you just kind of trying different things to kind of
100%. Yeah. That's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to be in the beginning. Like, you're not supposed to, like, almost no one figures it out right out of the gates. Right. And I love what you said too about you read all these stories about like the folks that are mega into Bordeaux and the folks that are mega into Chardonnays, right? And mega into the big, bold California wines. And it's like, you have diehard tribes within the tribes. And let me tell you, the whiskey folks and the bourbon folks and the Scotch folks are just as diehard too, right? You know, it's crazy, right? And you know, so there's a guy with a comment on Instagram saying sober sport. This was the exact thing that I was going to get into too, but it's like, what is the question that I hear 1,000 times from all artists and photographers? I just want to target the high net worth buyers. How am I going to target the high net worth buyers? How am I going to get to those folks? Right. Well, I'll tell you, when they're paying, you know, 100 plus, 500 plus, 1,000 plus, right? You are automatically targeting them. Most people don't even know what these bottles of wine look like because they're so expensive, right? You know, most people have not had them, right? Like, you've got some of the most famous bottles of wine ever. And so if by design or not, you'd manage, I mean, what is a good bottle of Happy to cost, right? Like, you know, you're automatically targeting the top 1% strata of society with this. And I don't know if you did it by design or not, but it's like, you know, you are targeting a group that would want to put this on their wall. Their checks don't bounce. You have figured out like what a creative way to like really hack into those high net worth buyers, which I think is awesome. You know, amazing way to go about it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, and the other thing is that there's also people like I get a lot of commissions from people who want to buy, you know, their favorite wine, and they want to commission me, and the wine costs under $20, $20-$30, but they're like, you know, it's like, Brien, you know, it meant something to them. Like, I had one guy I did a commission for, him and his wife. They went somewhere, did some international travel, and for their wedding anniversary years ago. And he was like, you know, Brien, this is a cheap bottle, but it just meant something to us because they were on the beach somewhere, and it just, you know, it just caused them to, it was a special moment for them. Yeah. So he wanted a bottle to commemorate that. And like I said, it was, you know, it wasn't an expensive bottle, but it just did something to him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's profound because you have the ability to tap into that, right? Like, you know, how many times on momentous occasions, you know, celebrating the anniversary or celebrating an engagement or birth of the first child, like all of those things in there. You know, I would love to see or hear kind of what is your revenue balance in between what the gallery is doing, your commissions work, your originals, your prints. Are you kind of spread across the board, or do you find one of them more lucrative to you overall?
No, I mean, they're definitely spread out. They're definitely spread out across the board. I would say probably maybe through art storefronts, probably more. I mean, like with the galleries, because I have a lot of originals in there, right? Mostly originals. So when I get paid through there, of course, you know, it's a decent sized check. But, you know, you only sell but so many of those, right? Yeah. But through art storefronts, you know, through you guys, I sold like 2 or 3 prints just this week. And for me, the merch, believe it or not, is a big thing, because I have a lot of customers who have said, you know, Brien, I love your work, but I can't afford an original. You know, what do you have? So that's when, for me, like the calendars come in, puzzles come in. Yeah. Those for me are like big items that I have: the puzzles, the prints, and the calendars.
You have got to get into the cell phone cases, by the way. And the reason I say that is a couple of reasons. And you haven't heard my rant on cell phones, but I'll do this quickly, and then I want to tell you why you're the perfect fit for it. iPhone has an application in it called Screen Time. Buried in the Screen Time report is the number of times a person picks up a cell phone in a day average. People our age, I assume you and I are about the same age, we average like 100 to 110 pickups a day. The millennials, they average like 200 pickups a day. So that means if you can get your art on the back of one of these guys, it's going to be seen 200 times a day, okay? Which is one of the most staggering revelations that I could possibly imagine, because no one has someone looking at their art 200 times a day, every day, day in, day out. Where it gets difficult for all others, and where it's a win for you, that there are very few people creating their art, Brien, in portrait orientation, right? Like your wine bottles automatically fit this shape. You know what I mean? Everyone else is having to crop their images or create different images that fit onto this, but you got it in spades. I mean, every one of your pieces is like a cell phone case for the most part. I mean, that's a cell phone case right there, right? How many individual bottles could you have on a case? I am not kidding, Brien. I think properly marketed, you could start selling sets of California wines. You could start selling sets of Burgundy. You could probably start selling sets of the whiskeys and be like, look, you know, get on a subscription. I'll send you a new cell phone case every single solitary month, and let's get that you know, recurring revenue play going on. I'm really excited about where that could potentially go. And I to be honest with you, of all of our customers thus far, aside from the ones that do abstracts that are like really hard, easy to be cropped, like your work is in that orientation. It's unbelievable.
Thanks. I'm writing that down, Pat.
Yep. I mean, I'm writing it down. Good. Yeah, it's too good. It's just too good. There's no question. I want to ask you too, because you've been with us for so many years, but you still have a day job, right? You're still having a job to pay the bills. Give us a sense of the trajectory of the business over the years. Now, I know it's not. It is never. Everyone thinks it's just like hockey stick growth, you know, year 3 or whatever. It's always a little bit of a squiggly and roundabout line. But would you say, has the business been growing year after year after year, every year, bit by bit?
I would say so. Definitely. Yeah. And definitely like last year, I mean, it definitely, particularly like with the one client that I had, who I didn't even know was on my email list. He had a huge purchase, and that really kind of like, wow, set me over the top.
Yeah.
And
what was it, if you don't mind me asking? Was it just big original?
Yeah, it was a big original. The price point that he purchased it, he paid about $15,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you find you? Did you ask?
I did. I learned from you guys. Always ask.
Yeah.
So how he found out about me was he went into one of the galleries that they had my work. He loved it, but he didn't like the particular piece because it was a Bordeaux piece. So he didn't purchase it. But what he did was he looked me up and he got on my email list, and he kind of sat there, from what he told me, for about a year. Wow. You know, never responded to any emails or nothing. And then one day I sent out an email that showed, I was like, you know what, let me, and I think I may have gotten the idea from either from when you guys were actually Meg or something, but I said, you know what, let me just send out an email about upcoming work. Because I'm always sending out emails about what I existing have, but I never send out anything to tell people this is what's coming down the pipe. So I did that, and I said, you know what? I'm going to do a California wine this time, and just send it out. And it wasn't finished or anything like that. It was a sketch, actually, because I was still working on it. He saw it, loved it, and he said, hey, you know, this reminds me of these Sunday dinners that he had with his family. How much is it? So I said, okay, so lesson learned. Get him on the phone. So I sent out an appointment, said, hey, you know, this is Brien, blah, blah, blah. And I learned at that point from you guys, don't give him the price in an email or anything like that. Don't respond with the cost. Just get him on the phone and then go from there. And so that's what we did, scheduled an appointment. And he was pretty much like, okay, you know, I love your work. And at that point, what I realized is when you have a buyer like that, at that point, you don't have to convince them to buy the work. They've already kind of made up their mind. At that point, it's just negotiating. We're just negotiating the price at that point. So we went kind of back and forth a little bit, which I expected, and settled on the price. And said, okay, look, I'll finish it. This is how long it'll take. And he was happy.
Yeah.
And of course, I was happy.
Yeah, you better believe you were happy. You got to raise all of your prices now. Is what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is an interesting, question. Ellen here is like, please tell me you travel to Italy, Napa, and the Pacific Northwest, and write off all those trips. I want to hear that he does that too, Ellen. I'm hoping he does that, right? Better still, he should be paid. He should be paid to go to these wineries directly and stay for a week with his wife, and get some good angles. It does bring up a good question. Like there's so many boutique wine bars in the United States. It's sort of staggering. I'm where I am. One of my good buddies had one for years. He's got one down on Laguna Beach now, and it's awesome. And I do wonder, what would happen if you started doing outbound reach outs to these folks, right? Or even like sending them a postcard or calling them or sending them some material and then calling them, because there's just no way that, any wine store or even fine dining place, like you have such a market there that I feel like you need to tap into, but again, it's like, what do you have the time to do? Right.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's something that, actually my wife, she has gotten on me about, several times, about, she's like, and honestly, I had a client this week call me the one who purchased the print. They were like, Brien, I love your work, but she said, a lot of people I know, they don't know about you, or at least they don't know that this is what you do. So that told me, it's like, okay, I really need to do a much, much, much better job of marketing and letting people know, hey, this is what I do. This is the work that I have. And like you said, trying to divide it up between, time, because like I said, I still have a full-time job, 2 kids, 18-year-old. So, it's, it can be challenging. So, pretty much kind of like my day is, I work during the day, and in the evenings, when I'm not at a lacrosse game or doing something for the kids, and the wife, I'm in my studio, trying to work it out. And again, I give a lot of credit to my wife, because she's, once she lets me have the time, but then she's also throwing out different ideas, where she'll say, look, I don't know, she says, your realm, your area, but these are some of the things that I see, that you could do that maybe would help. Because whereas, like one of the things that she said, one of my biggest challenges is producing the work faster. And because it's so detailed, it can take a while. And so, she has different ideas of like, Brian, instead of doing maybe it all in oil, just do it and maybe do something in pencil, or do something, in acrylic paint, because she said, it seems like you can produce a lot more work faster that way, as opposed to the oil.
Which is just so insanely detailed. I totally get that. I mean, you're on the path and the journey that so many of us are on, which is like, it's a side hustle. You have life, you have a finite amount of time to put into it, but you've been doing it consistently, which is the only thing that matters. Like, the consistency is 100% the path to how you get there. And like, look, it's not a race. No one's saying you're going to have to quit your day job today and go full time, but life's got seasons. You keep it going. I do have to say, while I'm on it, is like, you got to be doing the coasters too, Brien. Have to be doing the coasters. If you're not doing the coasters yet, you need to put that order in. Just like, do it tonight after you get done with work.
Do it tonight. All right, I'm on it.
Because a set of coasters of these, I mean, you have got to be kidding me. I mean, these are so good. We got a question on Instagram from Silver Sport. Have you tried charcoal? I have seen you've done some pencil ones, if I'm not correct. Yeah.
Yeah, there is.
Find it easily on Instagram, but
yeah, there is. Matter of fact, the silver oak piece. There was one where I did it. Yeah, okay. The one you just passed.
Yeah,
right
there.
So I did it in oil, but I also did it in pencil and charcoal.
Yeah.
So that is just basically kind of taking you through the evolution of kind of what, from start to finish of how I do it. So
how you do this insane detail.
Yeah. So what I tell people is that you are truly getting a custom piece from me, because when you get an original, it's truly custom, because it's hand drawn out, and then from that point painted till the end. So it's truly custom. I compare it to what I tell people. It would be like going to Louis Vuitton and saying, well, I want a custom bag, and these are some of the specific requirements that I want, and they produce it by hand. I said, to me, that's kind of the equivalent.
Yeah. I mean, like, how many hours did you have into that piece? That was a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because that's what caused me to raise the price and why I got that sale. My wife, she calculated that I spent probably about 250 hours plus on painting.
Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So that's why she was like, no, you need to raise your prices big time.
Yeah. You definitely do. And you're kind of one of those ones where you can shut the lights off for 24 hours, put everything up to 30 or 40 grand, and then turn the lights back on and just see if anybody notices or even blinks an eye. Because the clientele is going to end up being so high end for what you do. I feel like probably need to add in limited editions so that you have that pushing the original price up higher, and figure out how you would do the limited editions and what media type you want to do them, and make them like one of 100, and then call it a day on that. Don't do that again. And then that'll drive the original prices up too. But you have the range covered, right? Like, one of the astute things that you said that like I immediately glommed onto is like, you have these people saying like, Brien, I love your work, but I can't afford an original. What do you have for me? Right. Which is why the range of pricing is so important. Otherwise, that person's gone. They're out the door. They're looking at cat videos and they've forgotten about you. Right. That's what the math say.
Right. And I ran into that, which is why I started producing some of the stuff that I did. So I actually do have limited editions that I do. Interesting story. Years ago, I was at an art festival, and the lady, because what I've learned through my wife and through my own experience, if you listen to your customers, they will tell you what they want.
Yes.
And so I was doing this festival, and the lady was coming in, and my prices, I had some originals, but they weren't anywhere near what they are now. And she came in, she looked around, she said, originals I can't do, but prints I can. And then she left my tent. And I was like, oh, I just lost a sale. But I was like, learn from that, because she just told you if you had something in her price point, a print, she would have bought it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I need to start having some prints, available. And that's where you guys really came in, because one of the reasons that was the clincher for me was the print on demand, because I was with another website, and I would have to keep stuff in stock, and then you have stuff that wouldn't sell, so now it was sitting there, in your closet, and it was that was frustrating. Yes. So the print on demand allows me to be able to tell customers, go here. You can, print it out, and you have the different options that you want. And it just frees me up, so I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about trying to keep an inventory or something.
No, it's such a game changer, right? And like, you exemplify the part-time dad side hustle, right? Like, you do not have the time to be messing around with holding inventory, driving to the printer, sending tracking information, worrying about it. Like, one of the things that like affects artists from making it more than anything else is when you're wearing all of the hats, you don't have any damn time to create. So you've got to get that one off the plate. It's just not worth it. So I love that you're saying that. What's been your biggest struggle this year so far in 2024?
My biggest struggle is time, definitely, for sure. Definitely time. Because as my kids are like, one is transitioning to middle school, and they're getting older. So, and now they're involved in sports and so forth.
Which means you have even less time.
Which means I have even less time. Exactly. Yeah. So the time to, just to devote more time to my business, that's been more of a challenge. And I'll be honest, some of it, is, I haven't been on top of it like I should, so.
I'll that's all of us. Yep.
But I will say this, Copilot has really helped in that. So it's really helped. Like, it's nice to see, like, oh, okay, there's an email campaign that's coming out, and I don't have to kind of worry about it, and which is how that print got sold this week, because the email went out and they saw it and they were like, oh, well, Brien, it says here, they went to my website and so it's, oh, okay, well, there's a 20%, am I still good for that? Yep, you go ahead, so stuff like that just helps. And even, was it a large sale? Was it a big print? No, but it was a sale.
Exactly.
You know,
and it was acquiring a new customer too, right?
Exactly.
I'm in the same boat that you are. My kids are 6 and 8, and it's like there's no time for anything, nothing, almost nothing. And it sounds like you have an extremely supportive and epic wife that it gives you as much time as you have. But it's like,
right.
The number one thing that suffers in an artist business, a part-timer especially, is the marketing when times get tough, right? Like it doesn't get done. So at least with Copilot, it's going one way or another. You can edit some of the language or not, but it's going. You are going to stay consistent. And at the end of the day, I realize more than anything else, what is the difference between successful photographer or successful artists, successful photographers, successful creatives, and the ones that aren't? It's just consistency. That's it. Because everyone else, it gets tough and you quit and you stop and you come off the gas and you lose all that momentum. I'm getting some questions about your, what you use as reference photography on these pieces. Like, are you working off of photos when you do this? How does that work?
Yeah, I'm working off of photos. So in the pictures that I take, right? So I'll, like all the bottles and stuff that, that you see are bottles that I have purchased. And so I'll set up a still life. I'll set it up, go through it. Probably, I'll take a number of pictures of different angles and so forth. And then once I'm happy with that, I will recreate it. Once I'm ready to say, okay, put it on canvas, I'll recreate it because there's things that the human eye catches, that a camera can't catch.
Yeah.
And I've been doing it for a while now that I kind of know, like, okay, well, this is actually probably supposed to be here, even though it may not necessarily be in the photo.
Yeah.
So, so I'm working from at least 5 or 6 different photos to create a piece, plus, my own level of creativity.
Amazing. And once that bottle's open, I mean, I'm sure the logical thing that you're going to have to do at that juncture is finish.
Everybody asks me that. Everybody asks me that. Yep.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, some of the bottles I've never tasted, most of them actually. A lot of I'll get right off of eBay, right? And they'll have an empty bottle, and it's like, okay, like that, like that Romani Conti. I mean, that's like 16 grand or something like that, But I can go on eBay and get an empty bottle.
Yep. All day long. I love it. Well, I want to be sensitive to your time. I know you're at work. I want to hit you with 2 parting questions.
Sure.
The first, because again, I'm the marketing guy. If there's one thing that we can improve at Art Storefronts and only one thing, what is the one thing?
Oh, wow, Pat.
I have to. I gotta ambush. I gotta ambush you.
The one thing that you guys could improve, I would say probably maybe a little bit more flexibility in the social media posting through Copilot.
Yeah.
Like right now, I think you guys just added the feature where you can actually upload photos outside of our storefronts. Yep. So for me, that was very, very helpful. So I would think, for me, that sort of thing.
Yeah. The good news is that's where that product is headed 100%. I mean, it's going to be just a hub, right? You can put whatever you want up there, including the videos, including the photos. You're going to have all of that archived too. So you can go back in time, grab anything, grab something you posted 3 years ago, post it again. So we're making huge strides on that. It'll be coming soon. And then just as a final, almost 9 years now you've been with us. If you could go back and give yourself some advice year 1, what would it be?
First advice, we're going to jump on the opportunity when I first had it. But that would be the first one. But the other piece of advice that I would say is just try not to get discouraged. That it is a process. And, like I said, what really helped me was having my wife, seeing her go from start her business, her law firm. And then when she ended up leaving it, she was making about $600,000. So to go from that to zero, basically,
risky.
Yeah, but it took time. It took her about 13 years to get to that, to get to that point. And it was a lot of work. It was, a lot of work. And
Yeah.
so that's what I would, that's what I would tell, my youngest, myself when I was just starting out. It's like, it's going to take time. It is a grind, but just keep going. Just keep going.
Yeah, the consistency wins out. Well,
Mm-hmm.
Brien, you are awesome. Thank you so much for the time. For everyone that's watching, you got to go give him a follow. He's Brien, IEN.Cole_fine art. You can find him on Instagram. We got to get this Instagram following count up too. We got to start working on this. You're not going to start talking strategy here. But really appreciate you. Love seeing your art. Love talking about it, and can't wait to see what you're going to do in the next 10 years.
All right, great. Thanks, Pat. I enjoyed.
Thanks, Brien.
Okay, buddy. All right.